Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of an extra slice of history with the Butterfly Princess. This week we are looking at the life of Adolf Hitler. So here goes. Adolf Hitler, born in 1889 and died in 1945, was an Austrian-born German politician who became the dictator of Germany from between 1933 until his death in 1945. As leader of the Nazi Party, he rose to power and implemented policies that led to the World War II and the Holocaust. Adolf Hitler was born on the 20th of April 1889 in Braunau in Austria-Hungary. In 1913, he moved to Munich, Germany. During World War I, Hitler served in the German army and received the Iron Cross for his bravery. After World War II, Hitler joined the German Workers' Party (DAP), which later became the Nazi Party. He gained support by attacking the Treaty of Versailles and promoting nationalism, antisemitism, and anti-communism. By 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany and quickly established a totalitarian dictatorship. As Führer, Hitler implemented policies aimed at economic recovery and resentment. His expansionist foreign policy led to the invasion of Poland on September 1st, 1939, triggering World War II. Hitler was central to the preparations of the Holocaust, the genocide of approximately 6 million Jews and millions of other victims. As the Allied forces closed in on Berlin, Hitler married Eva Braun on the 29th of April 1945. The following day, they both committed suicide to avoid capture. His early life was marked by family moves, schooling, and artistic aspirations. Adolf Hitler's father, Alois, was a customs officer, and his mother was Klara. The family moved to Linz in 1898. Hitler had two brothers and two sisters. He had a difficult relationship with his father, who was devoted to his mother. Hitler did not perform well in school and never advanced beyond secondary education. He aspired to become an artist and twice failed to gain entry to the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna. This rejection left him embittered. From 1908 to 1913, Hitler lived in Vienna, earning a living by painting postcards and advertisements. In 1913, he moved to Munich to avoid military service in Austria. When World War I broke out, Hitler volunteered for the German army and served throughout the war. He was wounded in 1916 and gassed in 1918. He received the Iron Cross for bravery. The war provided him with a sense of purpose and companionship. Adolf Hitler's father, also Hitler, born in 1837 to Schittelgräber. Alice was born out of wedlock to Maria Ann Schittelgräber. Adolf his father's early life and career. Alois initially bore his mother's surname, Schittelgräber. He later changed his name to Hitler in 1877. Also, he had a career in the Austrian civil service, specifically in the customs department, rising to becoming a senior customs official. His father was married 3 times. Anna Klara. They married in 1873 but had no children. Anna died in 1883. They married in 1883 and she bore him 2 children, Alois Jr. and Angela Hitler. Francis died in 1884. Klara, she was Alois' housekeeper and cousin, whom he married in 1885. Together they had 6 children, but only Adolf and his sister Paula survived into adulthood. Alois was known for his authoritarian and strict parenting style. Historians often cited Adolf Hitler's troubled relationship with his father as a factor influencing his personality and political beliefs. His father died on 3rd of January 1903 for a pleural hemorrhage. Adolf Hitler's Behold Putsch was a failed coup attempt in 1923 that significantly shaped his path to power. It demonstrated the weakness of the Weimar Republic and paralysed German politics, while also providing Hitler with a platform to promote his ideology. Following World War I, Germany was in a state of chaos due to food shortages, economic instability, and a wounded national pride had crippled the economy, and the Treaty of Versailles imposed harsh reparations, leading to widespread discontent. Hitler, a high school dropout and failed artist, capitalised on this environment by joining and eventually leading the Nazi Party. He delivered fiery speeches against the treaty and blamed Jews for Germany's defeat in the First World War. Adolf Hitler's failure as an artist stemmed from a combination of factors, including his artistic skills, personal preferences, and the prevailing standards of art academies at the time. Despite his aspirations, he was twice rejected from the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. The admission board found Hitler's drawings unsatisfactory, particularly his lack of emphasis on the human form. The Academy favoured historical paintings and portraits, while Hitler's focus was primarily on landscapes and buildings. One reviewer noted his work had too few hands. Critics described Hitler's art as devoured of rhythm, colour, fading, or spiritual imagination. His style was considered that of a mortuary ambition amateur, making it difficult to distinguish from countless similar works of the time. While his figure drawing skills were lacking, Hitler showed skills in architectural drawings. He was advised to consider architecture, but this would have required him to return to high school and pass his maths exams, which he was unwilling to do. Some suggest Hitler's pride, bitterness, and inability to handle rejection contributed to his failure. Instead of preserving and proving his skills, he channeled his negative feelings and resentment and hatred. Ultimately, Hitler's limited artistic ability, disinterested in drawing people, and a willingness to pursue alternative paths like architecture led to his failure as an artist. Inspired by Benito Mussolini's march on Rome, Hitler planned to seize power in Munich and then overthrow the Weimar Republic in Berlin. On the 8th of November 1923, Hitler and his supporters stormed the beer hall in Munich, where Bavarian State Commissioner Gustav von Kahr was addressing a crowd. Hitler fired a pistol, declared national revolution, and demanded support from the Bavarian leaders. However, the coup quickly unravelled. The Bavarian leaders withdrew their support, the military and the police suppressed the uprising. A shootout resulted in the death of 16 Nazi Party members, and Hitler was arrested. Despite its failure, the beer hall putsch had several significant consequences. National attention. Hitler's trial for high treason provided him with a platform to gain national attention and promote his views. Mein Kampf, which translates into English as My Struggle during his imprisonment, Hitler wrote this book, which outlined his political ideology and became a manifesto for the Nazi movement. The failed putsch led Hitler to abandon violent revolution and instead focus on achieving power through legal and political means. Polarization of politics. The event deepened the divisions within German society, polarizing left-wing and right-wing groups. In conclusion, the beer hall putsch was a critical turning point in Hitler's career. Although it failed to achieve its immediate goals, it served as a catalyst for his road to power by increasing his visibility, shaping his political strategy, and contributing to the instability of the Weimar Republic. Adolf Hitler's alleged Jewish ancestry has been debated for decades, fueled by historical rumours and modern genetic studies. While no conclusive evidence exists, the discussion centres on two key aspects: DNA studies and genetic claims. Multiple investigations into Hitler's DNA have suggested possible Jewish and African ancestry. A 2010 study analysed saliva samples from 39 Hitler relatives and identified the E1B hologram, a genetic marker common amongst North African Berbers and sporadic Jews. Researchers noted this rarity in Western Europe, but prevalence in Jewish populations suggested a possible ancestral link. Critics argue that E1B1B is not exclusive to Jewish groups and appears in diverse populations, including non-Jewish Europeans and North Africans. Historical speculation about Hitler's grandfather. The uncertainty stems from Hitler's parental lineage. Hitler's father, Alois Hitler, was born out of wedlock to Maria Schüsselgräber. She later married Johann Georg Himmler, but Adolf's biological father remains unknown. Rumours suggest Maria worked for a Jewish family, the Freibergs in Grays, and became pregnant by their teenage son, Leopold. Although the family played child allegedly, the family paid child support to Maria, implying responsibility. Hitler's lawyer, Hans Frank, claimed in 1946 that Hitler privately favoured Jewish ancestry and ordered investigations into his lineage. Lack of documentary proof, no birth records or letters definitely identify Adolf's father. The Freiburg story relies on disputed testimonies and circumstantial evidence. SS investigations, Nazi officials, including Heinrich Himmler, reportedly found no Jewish ancestry in Hitler's lineage, though some speculate evidence was destroyed. Psychological impact. Historians like Ian Kershaw suggest Hitler's fear of Jewish ancestry, whether real or imagined, may have fueled his anti-Semitism. Conclusion. While genetic studies and historical rumours raise questions, no definite proof confirms Hitler's Jewish ancestry. The debate persists due to Hitler's obsession with radical purity and tragic irony that he targeted groups that he might have been linked to. As historian Brian Rigg notes, the speculation underscores how people hating others with what they themselves struggle with. Conditions in Landsberg prison varied significantly depending on the era and the prisoner's status. Adolf Hitler's imprisonment in 1924. He enjoyed privileged fortunes, confidence reserved for non-violent political prisoners. Comfortable accommodation. His cell was a spacious, well-furnished room with a view described as resembling a cross between a spa hotel and barracks. Visitors and luxuries. He received daily admirers, gifts and care packages and dined communally with fellow Nazi inmates under a swastika flag. Work and leisure. He dictated Mein Kampf with Rudolf Hess's help, read extensively and avoided forced labour. Sympathetic guards. Prison staff treated him respectively, allowing Nazi rituals and gatherings. Conditions for other prisoners. World War II, 1930, the prison became a site of brutality under Nazi rule. Forced labour and abuse. Political prisoners like Channel Islanders face starvation, medical neglect and labour in kitchen and factories. Alfred Baker described being operated on without anaesthetic and forced to work immediately afterwards. Executions. At least 210 prisoners died from malnutrition or execution between 1945 and 1944 and 1945. Post-war, the US Army used it as a war criminal prison. Executions, 252 Nazis, including SS officers and concentration camp personnel, were hanged here after the Dachau Nuremberg trials. Harsh confinement. Cells were restricted and condemned prisoners faced public protests demanding their release. Today, Landsberg remains a functional prison. Historical remains of Hitler's cell were removed post-1945 to deter neo-Nazi pilgrimage. Although Adolf Hitler committed suicide, before he could be brought to trial. Other Nazi officials were indicted on multiple charges at the International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg. These charges provide insights into the accusations that would have likely been brought against Hitler had he been captured. The 4 charges brought against these officers were conspiracy to commit crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, crimes against peace, war crimes, crimes against humanity, crimes against peace. These included planning, preparing, initiating, or waging wars of aggression or a war in violation of international treaties, agreements, or assurances. War crimes. These were defined as violations of the laws or customs of war. This category included but was not limited to murder, ill treatment, or deportation of civilian populations. Murders or ill treatment of prisoners or war killings of hostages, plunder of public or private property, and wanton devastation of cities, towns, or villages. Crimes against humanity encompass murder, extermination, enslavement, deportation, and other inhumane acts committed against the civilian population before or during the war, or persecutions or political, radical, or religious grounds in execution or in connection with any crime within the jurisdiction of the tribunal, whether or not in violation of the domestic law of the country were prohibited. These charges reflect the scope and the severity of the atrocities committed by the Nazi regime, holding individuals accountable for their roles in the Holocaust and other war crimes. Adolf Hitler's anti-Semitism stemmed from a combination of personal prejudice, political strategy, and specific racial theories. Key factors include historical context. Post-World War I Germany blamed Jews for Germany's defeat and the humiliating Treaty of Versailles 1919. Economic crisis. Jews were scapegoated during hyperinflation 1920s and the Great Depression of the 1930s. Ideological roots. Radical hierarchy. Hitler promoted the myth of an Aryan master race, casting Jews as an inferior race, therefore threatening German purity. Conspiracy theories. Stabbing the back myth falsely accused Jews of sabotaging Germany in World War II. Jewish Bolshevism linked Jews to communism to stoke fear. Escalation to genocide. Propaganda. Joseph Goebbels' ministry spread anti-Jewish lies through media and films. The Eternal Jew and laws. Systematic persecution. 1935 Nuremberg laws stripped Jews of citizenship. Crystal Act 1938 state section violence against Jewish businesses in synagogues. Final solution 1941 to 1945 industrialized murder of 6 million Jews in concentration camps. Consequences. The Holocaust remains history's most extreme example of sponsored genocide. Post-World War II, global effort to combat anti-Semitism, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. Hitler's hatred was not isolated, but lovingly existing prejudice, exploiting fear and nationalism to justify mass murder. Adolf Hitler's belief about Jews were rooted in radical antisemitism, the false idea that Jews were a separate and inferior race. This was a core component of his ideology and the Nazi regime. Core tenets to Hitler's belief. Inferior race. Hitler considered Jews the lowest form of humans, in his radical hierarchy viewing them as non-German. He promoted the idea of an Aryan master race with Jews as an inferior race threatening German purity. Nazis viewed Jews as that exploited and harmed other races, especially the Aryan race. Threat to radical purity. Hitler believed Germans had to be protected from inferior races to maintain strength and racial purity, with Jewish people being the biggest threat to the Aryan race. Historical context and scapegoating. Post-World War I Germany, Hitler blamed Jews for Germany's defeat in World War I and the Treaty of Versailles. I've read that bit. Influential figures Hitler admired, figures like Karl and incorporated administration into social reforms. Irrational fear. Hitler and Joseph Goebbels promoted the irritated fear that Jewish people were planning a potential uprising. Hitler's beliefs were not based on religion, but on a fabricated concept of race, leading to the persecution and mass murder of millions. Adolf Hitler's relationship with key Nazis were crucial to maintaining power and implementing his policies. Joseph Goebbels, propaganda minister. Joseph Goebbels was instrumental in creating the Führer myth, orchestrating a pseudo-religious worship of Hitler as Germany's saviour. Control of culture. Goebbels established the right Chamber of Culture in 1933, ensuring that only those approved by the Nazi regime could work in cultural professions. Goebbels remained loyal to Hitler until the end, committing suicide the day after Hitler's death. Ernest Röhm. Leader of the SA, Ernest Röhm led the SA, the parliamentary wing of the Nazi Party, which enforced the party's will through violence and intimidation. Homosexuality. Despite the Nazi persecution of homosexuals, Hitler initially ignored Röhm's homosexuality, considering the SA fighters not moral educators. Knight of a Long Life. Röhm was assassinated during the Night of the Long Knives in 1934 when Hitler purged potential political rivals. Heinrich Himmler, key architect of the Holocaust, along with Reinhard Heydrich. Heinrich Himmler was a key architect of the slaughter of 6 million European Jews. Leader of the SS, Himmler led the SS, which was responsible for the Nazi concentration camps. Protective custody. After the Reichstag fire, Himmler used the SS to place communist members of parliament in protective custody, helping Hitler establish a dictatorship. Eva Braun, intimate access. Eva Braun was Hitler's girlfriend and briefly his wife, had intimate access to Hitler and other key Nazis, filming them at the Berghof. Although Hitler claimed Germany was his only mistress, he allowed Braun into his inner circle at the Berghof, where she occupied quarters next to his. Suicide. Braun joined Hitler in his Berlin bunker and killed herself alongside him to avoid capture by the Red Army. These relationships highlight how Hitler maintained power through loyalty, propaganda, and brutal force, enabling the implementation of his politics and the strategies of the Nazi regime. Eva Braun Eva Braun was Adolf Hitler's mistress and for a brief time his wife. Their relationship remained largely hidden from the public, and she had little to no influence on its political decisions. Eva Braun met Adolf Hitler in 1929 when she was 17 years old. She was working as a saleswoman and assistant at the shop of Heinrich Hoffmann, Hitler's personal photographer. Hitler was introduced to her as Herr Wolf. Hitler and Braun became more closely involved in the early 1930s. She lived in a house provided by Hitler in Munich and later moved to his Berghof chateau in 1936. Their relationship was kept secret, and Braun had no obstacle influence on Hitler's political life. In April 1945, Eva Braun joined Hitler in his Berlin bunker. They married on April 29, 1945. The following day, April 30th, 1945, they committed suicide in the bunker to avoid capture by enemy troops. Braun died from ingesting poison, while Hitler poisoned and shot himself. Their bodies were burned in the garden behind the Right Chancery. Adolf Hitler's downfall was driven by strategic failure, leadership flaws, and self-destruction decisions during World War II, culminating in a suicide in 1945. Key factors include invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941. Hitler's decision to launch Operation Barbarossa marked a turning point. Despite early victories, the campaign overstretched German resources and stalled at Moscow due to harsh winters and Soviet resilience. This opened a catalytic two-front war draining manpower and supplies. Narcissistic leadership style. Hitler's insecurity and obsession with micromanagement led to poor decisions. He overruled generals, for example, refusing tactical retreats at Stalingrad and blamed the failures. His refusal to acknowledge reality, like dismissing intelligence about Allied invasions, worsened Germany's position. Allied counter-offensive. 1944. Normandy invasion. Allied forces under Eisenhower breached German defences, reclaiming Western Europe. Soviet advance. The Red Army's 1944 Operation Rejection declared German forces in the east, pushing towards Berlin. By early 1945, Germany was encircled with cities like Dresden destroyed and infrastructure collapsing. Self-destruction of Germany. His defeat loomed. Hitler ordered the scorched earth policy, March 1945, demanding Germany's destruction, punish its people for failing him. This reflected his delusional spite rather than strategic logic. Final days in the bunker. Suicide pact. On the 30th of April 1945, Hitler married Eva Braun and both ingested cyanide. He also shot himself. Their bodies were burned in the Reich Chancellery's garden. Legacy of ruin. Hitler left Germany in ruins, with 8 million Germans dead and Europe fractured. Why his downfall was inevitable. Ideological obsession. His fixation on radical purity and conquest and logistical realities. Refusal to compromise. Unlike other leaders, Hitler saw no middle ground between total victory and alienation. Moral bankruptcy. The Holocaust and war crimes unified global opposition, ensuring no negotiated peace. Hitler's downfall concludes that the dictator's trivial paranoia and ascended his collapse. His downfall remains a cautionary tale, take on unchecked power and distinctive ideologies. Adolf Hitler spent the last 105 days of his life in an underground bomb shelter located near the Reich Chancellery in Berlin. He moved into the bunker on 16th of January 1945 as Soviet forces advanced on Berlin. Life in the bunker. Luxury. The bunker was relatively luxurious for an air raid shelter, equipped with heating, electricity and water. It had 3,000 square feet of space and was accessible via a red carpeted corridor lined with paintings. Daily routine. Hitler initially maintained a routine of meeting with generals and strategizing, often until the early morning. He would wake around 11:30 a.m., have a quick breakfast and hold his first conference at noon. As the Soviets advanced, life in the bunker deteriorated. The atmosphere was filled with gloom and dependency. Hitler's health declined and he became increasingly isolated. Last public appearance. His last visit to the surface. Hitler made his last visit to the surface on the 20th of April 1945, his 56th birthday, to award Iron Crosses to members of the Hitler Youth. The bunker became a symbol of Hitler's final days and the collapse of the Third Reich. Adolf Hitler was accompanied during his final days by key Nazi officials, family members of his inner circle and personnel staff. The group included co-Nazi leadership, Joseph Goebbels and his wife Magda Goebbels, along with their 6 children, poisoned their children with cyanide hours after Hitler's suicide. Martin Bormann, Hitler's private secretary and close aide who helped burn Hitler's body. Military officers. General Hubert Wildling, commander of Berlin's defence, who informed Hitler of the Soviet Union's advance. Hans Kran, chief of the Army General Staff, and William Burr, Hitler's, who both committed suicide after Hitler's death. Personnel staff and guard. Heinz Links, Hitler's valet, and Otto Grusch, SS, who oversaw the disposal of Hitler's body. Ludwig, Hitler's surgeon who provided cyanide capsules. Secretaries. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes this week's episode of An Extra Slice of History with the Butterfly Princess. Have a lovely rest of your week, and I hope you can join me next week for next week's episode. But until then, take care, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye for now.